Well, I guess my first question is, what do you get asked about the most when you're seen out on the street?
It varies, man. And sometimes it just depends on it depends on the season. I think these days, not seeing very many people on the streets because of quarantine. But when I have, it tends to be the trial of the Chicago Seven right now. I think Watchmen is a very very close second. Um, and then you got the fans of Aquaman, the fans of Cadillac from the Get Down. You know, Black Mirror tends to be a hot one. A hot one too. So
Well,
it all depends. I think people are just starting to realize that I'm the same person from those different characters.
and I think that speaks to how talented you are, because you tend to morph into each of these individuals, and whether it's through your physicality or your delivery, it's almost like you're seeing a completely different individual. And I want to talk about Bobby Seale. Obviously, that's why we're here. You know, this is a real person who went through these awful events, without a doubt. And there's definitely information out there about Bobby Seale. So, did you take some of that information and put it into your preparation? How did you go about shaping how you were going to tackle this role?
Yeah, I read. That's a great question. I read his words. I watched his interviews. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but I wanted to everything that I was using to shape. I wanted it to come from him, to come from things that he said about himself, or that he himself revealed about himself. And I was blessed that there was enough information, enough firsthand information, yeah, to give me a well-rounded perspective of who he was and what was important to him, as a man, as a human being. And then just began to put on mannerisms, put on clothing, and but also I think above all is to arm myself with a purpose, you know, that would sustain me through the duration of the performance.
You mentioned the word performance, so not performance, purpose. Did you feel like an extra sense of pressure through that purpose because of how relevant these issues are today as they were simply back when this whole story unfolded?
No, I don't think there's anything about this undertaking that manifested in the form of pressure for me. And if it was pressure, I think that quickly morphed into responsibility. You know, and I think I try to make it to me. You know, I try to make it. I try to make problems or solutions as proactive as possible. You know what I mean? And so for me, I had a responsibility to tell the history, but also to step into a story that was attempting to say something about the present. And so my responsibility was making sure to portray history as close to something factual as possible, so that it could translate to today, and so that a message could come across.
Well, final question, and I'm going to talk about one of your co-stars, and it certainly applies to you, sir. Mr. Lingell, I had a chance to speak with him, and he spoke about how he stayed away from you and some of the cast members before shooting those scenes to kind of add to the mystery. Were you guys aware of what was going on? Uh, did you know that was what he was doing? And did you do anything special to get yourself ready for those intense court scenes? Because if you ask anybody, well, at least if you're asking me, those scenes are probably your finest hour in this film, and what everybody's going to be talking about once you know they've either seen the film or they see it again. And I've seen it multiple times. I'm sorry, I'm going to confess. So, can you speak to that?
Yeah. So we did know that was the method that Frank was entering the film on. Everybody has their own way of working, and we respected it. You know, Frank came out and he brought a certain energy and a certain fire on the very first day that we met him, and he commanded that respect from the moment that we first saw him. You know, we didn't see him until the cameras were rolling on him. And it's interesting because at the end of the day, he came out and he said, "Look, I can't do this. I can't sit through this because, you know, I'm having such a good time and you guys are excellent scene partners." And I was glad because I was able to have that relationship with him. For me, in terms of and when it comes to preparing for those scenes and for some of the more dramatic moments in the film, it helps to have that relationship. It helps to have that great rapport because um, the tension isn't real. The tension is being created between two actors with an agreement on the level of tension that we want to cause, and so or to create. And so to me, it helped to have that to have a good working relationship in between the takes that can help us to keep the pressure high. And I'm so glad that we did work in a way that, you know, that helped us to produce, you know, that type of work.